to another deep dive with Taylor Mammon. Wow, I can't get my words out today. Today's topic, and this conversation is about regular questions that we get around CBD from potential new brands, other people in the market, or even end users. That was just like the regular question. I get questions all the time, having worked within this space, even loosely on the outskirts of it for 18 months. Ed, you must get loads of questions.
I do.
Just to introduce everyone, obviously today we've got Ed Martin, he's sales manager, project manager.
Hey.
And we also have Ollie Mammon, who is kind of the formulation guy, the maestro, the lab director. But we don't just limit him to that.
Our golden boy.
The one wearing the chain.
So look, without further ado, I guess Ed, you must get a ream of questions daily from different people.
Yes.
Probably very similar.
Yes, absolutely. In short, yes, a lot of questions from customers. What's nice is that when people call up, it's always in the tonality of excitement. I just heard about this thing. What does it do? Okay, where to start? Does it get you high? No, it doesn't get you high. So it's great. More often than not, people call up and they've dipped their toe a little bit into the cannabis world. They've decided to foray into this, new area for them. And a lot of people want their hand held a little bit. They're excited about it, but there's this subtle tonality of a bit of apprehension. So in a lot of the conversations I have, it's people just want to feel a sense of comfort about what they want to do with CBD products.
Absolutely. And look, me, Ollie, we've spoken about this in the past in terms of, I've asked him numerous questions. I'm like, I've got a friend that's asked me this and I haven't got the foggiest. So what we want to do today in today's format is effectively, what's the question and what's the answer? And is that I think a really good way of simple education on those frequently asked questions. So, let's go from the top. Like, the 30-second, what is CBD? I know we've covered this numerous times, but let's start from there and we'll work our way through. So what do you normally say when someone goes, what is CBD?
Let Eddie handle this. He's like literally Edward is like the lord of phones, as we call him, because if a call comes in or an email comes in, like Edward's like, there's a 96% chance that Edward's the one who's going to answer that. So he's pretty awesome and knowledgeable. So let's let him take it away, man.
So when someone calls up and they've read about CBD, and they'll ask me, what is CBD? And at the end of the day, it's a molecule. It's a compound. It's something that the body actively recognizes quite easily. And it's extracted from hemp. It's extracted from cannabis, which is the same thing. In large part, that question evolves into, am I going to get high? No, it's not psychoactive.
And then whenever you say no, there's always a little bit of the which is always like, all right, mate, you're calling the wrong company. But yeah, Ed, back to you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. People have a overwhelming abundance of knowledge at their disposal, as we all do. But it's easy to it's easy to confuse yourself or pick a educational narrative depending on which way you lean. Are you more inclined to want to use CBD or not use CBD? There's equal amounts of educational documents out there to kind of
Yeah, but we've discussed this in the past, which is, you can go on the internet and find what you want as opposed to what the real answer is, right? And I guess, working in this, in a cannabis company or a cannabis derivative company, which is what Taylor Mammon is, right? We are blessed with educated people around us, with like the likes of Ollie and Nathan, and that have been working with this stuff for years. And obviously you've had years of experience coming out from Cali. So I guess people want to ring up and get an expert opinion. Right. Albeit that we all think we're still learning and we're not experts, but
that's the thing about this. We're learning as well,
exactly.
And so are Ollie and like people in the scientific community are constantly studying this molecule and cannabis, and everybody's finding out more about this molecule. As the months roll by, It's the tip of the iceberg, and it's such a uncharted territory in so many aspects.
See, the thing is a lot of us, we learn from each other. It's like a lot of our general education is picked up of other people. Whether you read a book or whether you watch a video, watch a documentary, read an article, watch a blog or a vlog, or listen to a podcast, it's always someone else who's created this information for you to absorb.
Yeah.
And back onto what Kev said, you can always find the answer to what you're looking for. So I have people call me up and they're like, I heard cannabis oil can cure cancer, and I saw that CBD is cannabis oil. So they've automatically put together that CBD oil can cure their cancer. Not getting involved in that conversation, but that's what happens when people are left to do their own research and kind of find their own information.
Sure.
And yeah, it's just, it ends up being a very long-winded conversation depending on the pre-information, the pre-existing information, which is already in a consumer or a client's mind. That whole what is CBD is not a simple one-word answer.
No, but you've heard my answer when clients.
I think it's and I think that's what you have to do, because you have to give them that answer of CBD is a molecule, CBD is a compound, CBD can't get you high, it has no psychoactive properties. And then what happens is the rest of the information it's only relevant on whether or not the client actually wants to learn it. So the conversation of what is CBD will go as far as the individual wants to know.
How curious are you?
How curious are they? How much information do they want to absorb? But here's another thing. If they've absorbed information elsewhere, it's how much of the information you give them do they want to believe? Because if there's two articles out there which both say different things and they both come out of universities and they're both factual, which one do you believe? And that's, so a lot of this whole what is CBD actually comes from a place of, it doesn't come from a place of wanting to know, it comes from a place of misunderstanding, so they'll come in really excited because they've seen amazing things, but it's not like a blank canvas. It's almost like a mood board, which then you go around and you circle all the moods which are correct and you cross out the moods which are not correct. Do you know what I mean when I say a mood board? When you have almost a million pictures thrown onto you have a million pictures, a million ideas thrown onto a piece of paper. And, Edward...
just taking them down that path.
Yeah, and Edward has to kind of work around that as he works down the route with a client. And I've seen him do some incredible things. He always gets to one of the main questions I ask, which I hear him ask, is, well, what do you actually want to create? Because he has clients who run brands for sports and sports recovery, and he has clients who run brands for homeopathy and, don't want to say pain management, but, lifestyle management. Two different conversations about what CBD does, because CBD is relative to the end user.
Exactly. It's incredibly subjective to how it'll make the customer feel. And that's what it really comes down to.
Let's bring it back around.
Sorry.
No, so is it another question?
That kind of dovetails into the next question that customers will ask me a lot, which is, so what is CBD going to do for me in my body? It's at the end of the day, CBD is a molecule, but even broader than that, it's an anti-inflammatory.
Right.
So it is an anti-inflammatory agent, whether you vape it, whether you ingest it as an edible, drink it, tinctures, soft gel capsules, brownies, or as a cosmetic in an acute area or in a body oil. So it's an anti-inflammatory. And that's kind of, as the scientific community has kind of described what CBD does, and cannabis, THC, CBN, in large part is an anti-inflammatory agent. And so as that moves into, into the pharmaceutical industry, into the, in the States, you can say it's pain management. You have to be careful of what you say in Europe and the UK and what claims you can make. But
we're not selling anything here, so let's make as many claims as we want, man. Literally, there are no products for sale on this show, so we can say whatever. Can we?
No.
There we go. We can't.
But yeah, right. So you have to be careful. But I heard this analogy the other day on what the benefits of cannabis-derived molecules can do for end customers, and there's a big gap between, at least in the topic of pain management, of people who take ibuprofen or Tylenol or an Aleve, And then on the opposite side of that spectrum, the rampant problem of overprescribed opioids.
Oxy.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And I think, and it's just my opinion, that CBD lies in the massive area in between. So it's stronger than an ibuprofen, but it is not at all an opioid.
However, another thing you got to bear in mind that it's probably also, safer than an aspirin and ibuprofen. Ibuprofen, they call it NIAIDs. Mm-hmm. Is that right? Or yeah, it's like. Just trying to think of the acronym. My brain's gone a bit numb, but what happens is they literally degrade your stomach, and they degrade your stomach lining, and they can cause liver damage, and they're generally quite detrimental to health. I mean, you can do further research yourself into this, it appears. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying there are no risks attached to CBD, because like you said, we're still at the tip of the iceberg, but as we know it, there are very little negative side effects from CBD.
Anecdotally, it's also been tested to a degree, right? Like anecdotally, there is stories about how if you overconsume CBD, you will just excrete it like any other overconsumption of a vitamin, right?
Right.
If I have loads of vitamin C,
right. Yeah. We've all had a Baraka, and all we see is, the change of our piss.
Bright orange for me.
Right.
I'm saying,
literally, I turn.
But that's what I'm saying. As far anecdotally, like, and I'm being very clear that it's an anecdotal finding. I think they did a test when they basically gave a dog so much biomass to consume to see what effect that much CBD would have, and it was actually the amount he consumed as opposed to the CBD that affect him more. So it just shows that. Yeah,
but bear in mind that my dog nearly ate himself to death on his own kibble. He's a Labrador. He has eating issues. We left him. He devoured. So we didn't leave him. He went over to the neighbour's garden. He found the neighbour's dog's food and literally ate 12.5 kilos of dog food, and he nearly ate himself to death. My dog weighed 30 kilos. When we took him to the vet, he weighed 45. We had to wheel him into the vet. Okay, and the vet was like, look, basically like his kibble from mouth to bum, like literally like we saw the x-ray and it looked like a Dalmatian on the inside, just dots. And I mean, dogs do that. So I mean, if I gave my Rusty a bag of biomass, or if I put peanut butter on a bag of soil, he would probably eat himself to death. Okay, I mean, like, it's not really fair.
That's what I'm saying, is that it's actually, but
I love my dog.
The point is
so
it wasn't the CBD that was, or all of the cannabinoids that were in that biomass that was affecting. It was the quantity of consumption.
Also, biomass, you've got to bear in mind, has herbicides and pesticides, and it has all the other things which are used when growing. It has probably some, plants absorb metals from the ground. When you do an extraction, they're not small metals. They're large molecules. They'll pass out when you run an extraction.
It's your crop close to a highway.
But I mean, that's it. Like, crops close to a highway, like they have like higher amounts of what's it called, carbon dioxide and filth all over them. Cut a tree down next to a motorway and see your hands will be covered in tar. Yeah. It's just what happens. So these things need to kind of be taken into account when you're using a biomass as a test example.
Of course. But assuming assuming anecdotally, like those tests have been done loosely, and there is no official standpoint, or we would be in a bit.
The most amount of clinical trials happening on CBD, THC right now are happening in London.
Yeah.
So it's
2021,
yeah,
which is incredible.
Yeah.
And then you've also got some incredible tests going on in Israel at the moment. You've got some incredible tests going on in Australia at the moment. You've got the German Medicinal Board, who are probably one of the most further advanced medicinal cannabis systems in the world, in terms of actually producing a real medicinal system where all crops are double validated, and there's an actual through pharmacy system of distribution. I mean, like, there are certain countries which are really taking this understanding of what cannabinoids can actually do to a whole new level, and it's pretty amazing.
I heard this thing the other day that Israel imports more cannabis than all of Europe.
So Israel has this incredible system. It imports a lot of cannabis from Canada, but it also exports a lot of cannabis. Because what they do is they create genetics, and then they run tests on these genetics. So they have proven genetics. So they have a strain for arthritis, and they have a strain for insomnia, and they have a strain for IBS, and a strain for other, pain-related
So is it
ailments.
an actual strain, like the genetics?
Yeah, it
of
will be an
the
actual
plant
genetic.
have
And what
been-
happens is in Israel, you go to a pharmacy. So
Yeah.
you'll go to an actual real pharmacy, so the equivalent of a Boots, and you'll go there and they'll have in a box on the pharmacy, they'll have your cannabis and they'll give you a pharmaceutical box. You go home and it's in like a blister pack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just what it is. It's your weed. It's not like pills, but I mean, it comes like a box of medicine.
like the orange RX with the white cap.
No. It comes in like like your capsules will come in like a cardboard box with a slide in. So you
Oh,
just
yeah,
got
like a
like an
blister
aluminium
pack.
foil bag inside an actual pharmaceutical box. It's like mental. Like it's like a real system where you can imagine like white boxes stacked on the shelves with strains in them. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
There's no eye candy. It's not like
So the branding on it, it's like simple white.
Yeah, it's like
box.
It's
simple
like the
white box.
pharmaceutical white box,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
Like when you get your NHS prescription filled out.
That's unreal.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a real system out there. Now, Israel's about to they're very close to doing a decriminalization. So that's going to follow quite nicely with the American model. They're a bit more of the California-based model, which is interesting, putting consumption in the hands of the consumer as opposed to in the hands of a prescriber. But it's once again, it's just about understanding. Israel's also had a medicinal system for about 20 years, so they've had 20 years of wanting to understand what's actually right for
But they've
us.
done it on a scientific, government-backed looking at the genetics.
Exactly.
And they've remapped, right? They've remapped like the entire genetics.
I don't know
of
if they've remapped or just
cannabis
genetically
plant.
chosen. So if they've chosen
right.
specific strains which have better, better direction, better
Okay.
purpose. So like different blends of 1-to-1 THC CBD strains to high level THC strains to high level CBD strains
Right.
to sativa strains for uplifting and indica strains for subduing and then they've done research on the terpenes, they've done research on the cannabinoid strains, on the blends, on this, on that. It's some pretty cool stuff. And loads of different forms of isolation. I mean, it's pretty cool. You isolate CBN and you could take 10 milligrams of CBN and it's stronger than any sleeping pill. But you wake up the next day clean because it's not a pharmaceutical which is designed to
not
knock you
fogginess,
out.
yeah.
It's something which your body... It's not like a serotonin, but or a melatonin. It's similar to that, though. It's like a compound which almost already exists in your body, or a compound your body knows how to work with, and it just subdues you. But I mean, some of the effects of of isolated or high concentration, broad spectrum, full spectrum CBN, like 65% CBN with another cannabinoid spread, they come back as incredible for sleep with no grogginess and none of that after fatigue that you get from pharmaceuticals.
You wake up and you feel like you were unconscious,
Which
but
is-
you don't feel like you slept.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
it's incredible, and that's what I think a lot of the believers in this marketplace are moving towards. They're moving towards something which is not going to make them feel bad for weeks to come.
Yeah. I guess that kind of nicely works into maybe not the next question, but it's always something that I mention to my customers, which is any client that comes to me, they've always developed some sort of hypothesis. I think my customers want this. I think that they really want to try X, Y, or Z, ingredient inside of a tincture. And what I always say to them is, the only opinion that matters is your customers. So get your products out quick, test, refine, test your experiment quick. You've developed your hypothesis, but you're sitting on it for far too long. You need to get feedback from the actual trial you're about to conduct. The other thing I like to say to my customers is what it really comes down to with the end user, whether it's Aleve or Tylenol or ibuprofen or CBD, it's all about the outcome. That's the only thing that matters to a customer. What is this going to do for me? How is this going to change this problem in my life? I've tried Aleve. I've tried Tylenol. I've tried this. It's ruined my stomach. It's, I can't wake up in the morning. I'm having coffee. It's not waking me up. It's just making me jittery. Like all these problems that CBD can help out with to mitigate. From a selling point, if you're starting a new business, if you've got a startup, if you're already in an existing business, this. All that matters is your end customer. So the thing that people are excited about is mood changing, and that's what CBD can help out with. Is, you know, it can help you wind down at the end of the evening. It can help alleviate anxiety or stress, and that's what people want to see, is what can I do to change my mood or how I'm functioning throughout the day? How can I add a new variable into my life without changing the rest of my life equation too drastically?
It's like purposeful consumption. They need to have the purpose for what they're consuming this product for.
Yeah.
I think you give it to them very well, though, Ed, when people come to us. I think that, you know, the purpose, you know, you always seem to find the right purpose. You know, and it's like products created with a purpose. That's what Taylor Mammon do.
Yeah.
And I find that you really do, you know, make sure your clients do that. You know, you get to the bottom of that very well with them. I seem to lose them in a storm of too much information, but you seem to captivate them in their sort of, in their actual desires, you know, and that's why you've closed some of the, you know, the bigger brands in this marketplace, and you've helped to formulate their product, and you've helped to formulate their direction, you know, and it's that direction which leads on from that hypothesis. So they're, you know, like they have the hypothesis, we create the direction. Hopefully the end user will be able to create that positive result for the brand, you know?
Right.
And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. How often do you find that, you know, being on the front end, do you find that you're like pushing them more towards making a decision, or do you find that you're more nurturing them?
At the beginning, it's nurturing. I mean, it varies. You'll get people who, within the first 10 seconds, I'll understand if they know what they're talking about or if they don't. You know, they'll call up and they bam, I've done this research, and they're like, okay, great, cool. That made that just cut off half an hour of this conversation. You know what you're talking about. And then there's other people who have found us on Google. They've seen your video online. I can't tell you how many people come through our digital door of phones or website, and they're like, yeah, I saw Ollie. It was just so passionate. It was all about building partnerships, and it just, you know, you got to have mathematically accurate dosages, and you got to have the best products and for the best people and the best way of infusing.
Like, I love him. I want to speak to him, please.
Yeah. Are you Ollie? I was like, I'm not Ollie.
Trust me,
Sorry.
You do not want to speak to me. Like, as you can see from this, it's very hard to communicate with me. I have a lot of passion, and I put my heart and soul into everything I do for you guys. But I mean, trust me, you do not want to speak to me. It's like nothing good will come out of it. You'll end up leaving so confused. You'll probably end up moving to America and starting a real cannabis company. Do you know what I mean? It ends up being a massive distraction because, like I said, my mind runs at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but Ed's got this incredible way. I've seen it before. I'm like, I throw 1,000,000 ideas at him and he'll come back with the right one.
Just to round it up, because I know we can go on for days about how great Ed is.
That's not.
No, it's not about how great it is. It's more about, it's very nice as someone who cares about the ingredients to be able to design a product with someone who's selling a concept based on the ingredients. And it's important to know for well that you're in the right hands in terms of the understanding of the actual ingredients, because we're not selling water here. You know, we're not selling sellotape. We're selling a product which has a function to us intrinsically. It has an intrinsic function, and these compounds have intrinsic value to us. And it's important to know that the person telling you about them actually understands them. You know, he understands what a milligram is.
Just to take that a step further, yes, it is what you've said, which is, you know, it's not just sales. It isn't. You know, well, all of the team, even Nick includes.
Nick's incredible too.
Like, the project management, sales, white label team, like that side, the front end as we call it. You know, if anyone does speak to them, they're talking from an educated place. Yes, with Ollie, Nathan behind, kind of educating them with very kind of large theory that they've, I guess, plateaued down into something tangential, like accepting, like that's easy to understand, and to finalize it. But they're not selling, they are basically explaining the value of these things and then creating the formula for the best output for the end consumer. And fundamentally, that's what Taylor Mammon stands for.
It's all about that.
Like, I'm sure we've got more and more questions that would come in about what is CBD. I think we've ironed out the top few and also gone on a bit of a journey.
Sorry.
And spoken about the qualities of Ed. Is there anything else you would like to add? anything that you've, that's in the back of your mind that I'd love to say?
Frequently asked questions.
Yeah, like as in, is there any ones that you're like, I get asked this loads and
10 ml or 30 ml bottle.
Right. What percentage do you want to have at the end of the day?
That's it. If I buy a 40%, it's better than a 10%, isn't it? And I'm like, well, it's not about the bottle and it's not about the percent, it's about your consumption. So if you're going through a 300 milligram bottle every day, or you're having one drop of a 4,000 milligram bottle every day, all right, then you're obviously having more CBD from the 300 gram bottle. But I mean, if you're taking one drop equivalent, it's a big difference. And I don't think, I'm sure you can agree that most of the people don't really, like, that's what people are quite often lost on, is like, what is the difference between this bottle and that bottle? Yeah. How do you, I just find myself being lost. I get angry. I get really angry. It's just like, I'm just like, are you serious? It's simple math, but I get annoyed. Like, how do you direct that? Because I can see that, there's a trend towards a 10 ml bottle now. We started off 4 years ago, everything was 10 ml. Over the last few years, everything's become 30 mil, and now everything's going back towards 10 mil. And I've seen the sales reports come through, and I know what I've been designing and putting together. So I see a lot of 10 mils coming in now. Right. Do you see that that's more on the client's decision or more on you directing the clients?
I think it's from the market being dictated towards us, or customers coming in and saying, yeah, we want a 10 ml bottle. I'm like, well, okay, what was your reason for that? More often than not, they want to have a higher percentage of CBD on the label. And that's what they have developed as their hypothesis will sell more products. It's like, okay, like it's technically, yes, there is more CBD per pipette. It's not going to, depending on
consumption habits.
Yeah, half a pipette a day, 2 drops a day, quarter pipette, full pipette. Like that 10 ml bottle will last, less than a 30 ml. The reason a 30 ml is nice is it's about a month's consumption if you take 1 ml or a full pipette per day. So then that is simple for the customer. And then it really just comes down to the milligram dosage in a bottle. If there's more 1,000 milligram, 2,000 milligram, then you're going to have, more milligrams per that 1 ml that you're taking in the morning, or half a ml in the morning, half a ml
a lot of it's brand directive, isn't it? It's like if I've got a 30 ml, it looks bigger on the shelf, it might draw more attention.
I can get a bigger logo on my label. The labels are smaller on a 10 ml, it's really, it's for the client to tell me, and then I'll tell them the benefits, the pros and cons of both. Yeah. And that's just from like a branding standpoint.
Yeah, of course.
Do you ever find that people, because I've definitely heard this before, but I've heard it more, so I've walked into shops before, praying that I'm not known, and people are like, who are you? I'll use a fake name just as people throw out.
John.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, my name's Johnny, Johnny Papadopoulos. I'll pretend I'm Greek or something. All right, and I walk in there and I'll be like, questions, so what should I buy? And I'll do it just for fun, just when I'm out. Pre-COVID, when I was out and about.
When you're out and about. To see how the sales rep.
Yeah, to see how the sales rep comes. Right. And I have heard before, the 50 mils bigger. And I'm like, well, what's the milligram dose? No, it doesn't matter what the milligram is, a bigger bottle of CBD. Oh, right. And I was saying, like, as manufacturers, and as a person who's never client-facing, I mean, like, it's not really one of those conversations which I've ever really been privy to, in terms of a manufacturer designing a product with that image in mind. But do you find that? Or do you,
as what?
Do you ever find that clients want to not mislead, but appear bigger than they are, appear better than they are, appear stronger? Using a bigger bottle might make them look bigger.
Yeah, I mean, but that's just brand perspective, right? Like if someone turned around and said, I want to do it in a 100 ml bottle, and I want to put 1,000 milligrams, so each 10 ml is 100 ml, right?
So it's 0.5 milligrams a drop.
Yeah, so then it's like, that's their prerogative. Do you know what I mean? Like, if they wanted to do that, if they go, I'm making a salad dressing, and it's a 1 litre bottle.
Yeah, fine.
Do you know what I mean? Like, that's their prerogative.
You can absolutely make that. Is that product, product will, look powerful on the shelf. Is that product going to be as
effective or bioavailable?
Not really.
But that's, I guess, the conversation, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's where we can...
Does bioavailability come into it with your clients ever?
I explain that to them. When we get further down the road in conversation of CBD, They're like, yeah, you know, milligram this, milligram that. It's like, yes, at the end of the day, it's science. Like CBD is an oil. The body is 75, 80% water. Your body can only recognize so much oil. You know, your body, CBD can only be so bioavailable in the human body. So yes, to get into the nitty gritty of it, I think when it comes down to it, the body recognizes around, I want to say about 50 to 55%.
Yeah, I usually say 30 for sick, 60 for 30 for sick, 60 for fit. So I mean, if you're sick, your bioavailability is probably going to be around 30%. So let's say when bodies are not well, they're generally running at a lower functionality. So I would say you're around 60%.
Your metabolism is compromised, all that. Yeah,
but it's the same with everything. That's not a CBD bioavailability. That's like for vitamin C as well. That's for curcuminoids. That's for copaiba. That's for B12. You know what I mean? That's literally nutraceuticals.
Yeah.
Now, you know, there are different carrier techs and stuff like that you can use to increase bioavailability, and different sort of carrier tech compounds, nanotech and things like that, which can increase bioavailability. Also, not just in cannabis and CBD, but in all types of nutraceuticals. It's mental though. Literally, the iceberg is mental.
I know, and as much as we could spend 10 hours going down this rabbit hole.
We might do a marathon.
We should.
If we get 30 viewers, me and Nathan, me and Edward.
Imagine, I think a live stream doing that. I think people. I mean, people will turn off.
I've got a radio show starting soon. I might just bring Ed on and hijack the station for anything.
That'd be fun.
Well, that'd be great. I think you two are great together, and actually watching you two work together is, you know, highlighted how much you both have so many shared interests, and that, you know, actually we learn from everyone, right?
Like, no, I learn a lot from him.
Ollie can also say that he learns from Ed. What I will say is that I'm going to wrap it up
That's
there, just in case, because, you know, we're diving deep.
Our listeners,
yeah. However, if anyone does want to speak to Ed, less so Ollie, because Ollie's kind of vis-a-vis through Ed, but both of them are available to have a conversation, discuss what we've discussed just now, but also dig deeper into what CBD is, what it can do within your product line, whether in a drink or a topical, or, you know, something you consume. And I'm sure Ed will be more than happy to receive a call or an email, and they're available on the website. Barring that, thank you both so much once again for being part of it.
Thank you.
They're always fun to just watch you guys in action, and just, I'm sure this conversation happens weekly, and we've just had the chance to be a fly on the wall.
I do love it when Ed calls me. I'm like, I get to fucking confuse him. It's like, it's the standard. It's like the standard thing. I'm like, Hannah, watch this. You know, I turn to my girlfriend, I'm going to blow his fucking mind. You know,
just to round it off. Obviously, make sure you check out Taylor Mammon. Check out the website. Also on socials. Stay in touch with us, keep on top of our deep dives. These things are going on, and we've got other topics that we're talking about, and hopefully
we've got some incredible guests coming on as well. We're not going to tell you who they are, but you have to stay tuned to find out.
Well, with that, enjoy the rest of your day.